Hi, thanks for joining me, Clara, on this guided visualization for sleep. Before we begin, please find a place where you feel comfortable. Relax all the muscles in your face. Focus on your forehead until it feels free of tension. Allow the tightness to melt away from your eyes. Drop your shoulders as low as possible to relieve any stress from your neck. Relax your upper and lower arms. Then move down to your fingers. Relax your chest and fill your lungs with air. Release. Then move down your legs and finish at your ankles and feet. They call this the Elk Wood because, not so long ago, somebody found a 12 feet wide, well-preserved, prehistoric antler while exploring the forest. The antlers hung in a prime position on a wall above the fireplace in the local pub for a long time. But now the antlers hang in the hall of the museum in the big city. The antlers didn't actually come from an elk, but a giant extinct deer. The largest species of deer ever to exist, standing about 7 feet tall at the shoulder. The Irish elk, or deer, evolved during the glacial periods and ranged throughout Europe, North Asia, and Africa. The largest deer that ever lived became extinct because it couldn't survive the subarctic conditions of the last ice age. Experts have determined that the last one in Ireland died about 11,000 years ago. Little remains of the native woodland that once blanketed this landscape during ancient times. But Elk Wood has endured. It's one of the only forests remaining that's persisted since the last ice age. All the other forests were cleared for farmland, and the wood provided material for houses, ships, or fuel. In the early morning light, you walk through the village on your way to explore Elk Wood. This village is charming and remote, with no stop signs on the narrow street. There's a post office letterbox on the wall outside a grocery shop, and a pub called the Red Lion. It's early morning, so no one's around. To reach Elk Wood, you must pass through the graveyard on the outskirts of town. Long ago, a monastery stood here. All that remains of it now is a crumbling wall, enclosing dozens of gravestones of all shapes and sizes. Many are broken, cracked, and blotted with fungus and moss, while others are shrouded by ivy or overgrown with nettles and grass. Time has eroded all the names on the stones, so the ones not overgrown are impossible to read. And there's a haunting feeling of abandonment here. The trunks of 5 chestnut trees rise like columns in the middle of the graveyard. forming a natural ceiling with interlocking crowns. When you leave the cemetery through a rusty iron gate, you feel an opening and a new spaciousness in your chest as you walk out into the fields. These fields have recently gone into a conservancy and, consequently, have been allowed to go totally native. Yarrow and gorse grow wild amongst the switchgrass. In places the gorse is blooming yellow. These with bushes of scarlet roseberries and trailing blackberry briars covered with red and yellow leaves make fine patches of colour in the bright sunshine. The narrow trail is marked by small rocks balanced precariously into tallish towers at intervals alongside the path. Some have toppled over and collapsed into heaps. The grass path is soft and springy underfoot. After following the markers for a while, you arrive at Elk Wood. When you get into the forest, you're surprised to see it's almost like a garden, without brambles or thorns, and there aren't any rotten stumps or fallen branches to trip over. It's very still. But you can hear birds singing in the distance, and the soft wind through the leaves. Whole oceans of rain and centuries of sunlight were needed to create this forest. And long ago, the same sunlight glinted upon the antlers of the Irish elk who roamed here. Here, the ancient oak and chestnut trees seemed taller than towers, some with trunks about 12 feet wide. About 280 different insects and other small creatures call an oak tree home, as well as hundreds of plants. Lichens algae, moss, and fungi. And ancient trees like the ones here in Elk Wood support even more of a variety of insect and plant life. And over there, a big tree trunk is surrounded by clouds of white butterflies. A flutter of invisible wings in the leaves somewhere overhead makes you look up. Sitting on a branch above is a snowy white barn owl, looking down at you with round, dark-rimmed eyes and a dusky mottled face. Before it flies low overhead to a branch further away. Intrigued, you follow the owl to see if you can get an even closer look at it. But the same thing happens. Again, the owl makes eye contact and then flies away, floating on huge wings to another branch. This happens several times before it dawns on you that the owl is leading you somewhere. And you're way off the path now, with no trail markers in sight. Here, a path is furrowed into the soft, springy moss carpeting the forest floor. And it weaves through the trees, which cast long shadows onto the ground, indicating it's well into the afternoon. Your stomach grumbles. And you think about returning. But the owl beckons you on and on, deeper into Elk Wood. Finally, after a while, you arrive at a small clearing. And now you see the owl has landed on the roof of a house. It's an old house, made from a combination of the most humble, simple, natural materials, kind of reminding you of a bird's nest. The roof is covered with the same thick moss carpet that covers the forest floor, which makes the house appear camouflaged. Outside the front door is a bench with a pair of heart-shaped seat backs. Next to it, an old broom. A note pinned on the door with a rusty nail says, "Welcome, I'll be back soon." And on another line in smaller writing, "Please, help yourself." Intrigued, you turn the handle, open the door, ducking under the low entryway, and enter a small room with a low table and an old sofa. A semicircular stained glass window with a moon design casts blue and red light dimly onto the threadbare rugs covering the floor. Bunches of dried flowers and herbs dangle from the ceiling, and a large pot of water on the stove with herbs steeping inside. All the walls are lined with shelves displaying different sizes of coloured bottles with neat ink cursive writing on their labels. One reads, "Take 2 drops for happiness," and another, "5 drops for sleep." Love potion. Take 2 drops for calm. Take 6 drops for patience. And so on. There are many magical potions. Here are more. Take 2 drops for stomachache. Rub onto insect bite. Take as needed for nausea. All the bottles appear to be healing potions for different conditions or ailments. The owl hoots outside. When you open the window, it flies away, high over the trees, so it's impossible to follow anymore. Now the wind through the trees sounds like waves, gushing and sighing. Suddenly, it starts to rain, and far away in the distance, you hear a low rumble of thunder. So you're content to be here in Elk Wood and wait out the weather. Maybe you'll meet the owner of the house. Turning back to the bottles, you remember the writing, "Help yourself," on the front door. There are so many choices. How do you pick just one? Finally, you choose the bottle with the label that says 5 drops for sleep. It tastes like fizzy honey mixed with chamomile and lavender. You walk over to the shabby sofa and lie down. Above it, the sash window panes are splattered with raindrops. Looking through them, you watch the trees swaying hypnotically in the breeze. Sleep. Your elusive companion. Not so elusive now. The potion is working. You close your eyes, and as you lie here, you feel grounded. Your heart quiets, and your mind and your soul lift to a gentle place, and you breathe in deeply, precious, renewing tranquility, and the feeling of drifting